Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is part 1 video on Angular 15. So in this video we are going to do sorting, searching, pagination on Angular material code items. Okay. So our target is we will add items like card. Okay. Here there are items, right? So these cards we will apply sorting, search and pagination. Okay. So here if you want to see the sorting is done by ID value. Here this round circle is the item ID. For your understanding, I am displaying ID value here. The same way I can do sorting by year. Okay, like this. And sorting by color. Okay. Like this, I can apply sorting. And next, here I can search by item by its score. Okay, so we got the results. Same way we can apply pagination as well. Okay, so let me clear all these things. Okay, let's do pagination. See, okay, the total idea is we are going to create a sample application like this where we implement sorting, searching, and pagination. Let's create Angular application. So command to create Angular application is ng space and name of your project. Okay, let's create it. And here it is asking, would you like to have Angular routing? Say no. And I am going to use CSS styling. So it is about to create our application. So please wait. Project creation done. Let's open our project in Visual Studio Code. For that, go to root folder of the project, open command prompt and enter command like code space dot. That going to open our project in Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, here is our Angular application and in package.json file, we can observe the version of the Angular which is 15. Now let's integrate the Angular material for UI components. So here is the Angular material UI components official website. Go to get started and here is a command to install the Angular material into our Angular application. So let's copy this command and open the terminal in our project, add the command and install it. So here it is asking, would you like to proceed? Yes. And here it is asking to choose the theme color for our Angular material. I am going to use deep purple color. And you want set up global Angular typography styles? No need for me. And include animations? Yes. So Angular material successfully installed in our application. Okay, first let's run our existing Angular application. So to run the existing Angular application in terminal, first clear the logs and add a command like ngser. It's going to run a local server in our system where it will host our local application. Okay, run it. Okay, here you can see it is hosted our application and here it is specifying the route. So copy this route, try to access in the browser. Okay, this is the default HTML content that we are going to see when we first launch our local application. Now, let me remove this existing HTML code and first let's add the Angular material navbar. So let's go to the app folder and go to the app component.html. So this is the HTML content we have just seen. So let's remove it. Now go to Angular material website and go to components and try to identify the menu bar. So click on the toolbar menu. Okay. We are going to add a menu bar like this with the primary color. For that I can copy the content from here. So let me take this, okay, add it here. Since I am using mat toolbar, right, means material component, we need to integrate its own module into our app module. So go to app module, okay, and go to website. In the API section, it will specify the module we have to import. So copy this module, get back to our app module file and add here and also configure it in imports. So let's check the output. Okay, I am getting menu bar but menu is displaying in white color, but I want theme color. For that we can decorate a attribute like color, okay, and just specify value like primary. Okay, now I got the menu. Here there is a space between top and menu, right? That is because of paragraph element. Let's remove it. Okay, save, check output. Now there is no space. Okay, now let me change the heading like cars. Okay, now first thing in this video, we need to invoke the get API call and render those items into card. Okay, so first let's set up the JSON server API call so that we no need to do coding regarding the API. So search like JSON server, click on the link and here you can find some documentation regarding the JSON server. Okay, here is nothing. Let's go to the GitHub repository. Okay, here you can find some documentation. First thing is JSON server must be installed globally into our system. For that, just copy this command and open the terminal, any route path and just install this command so that JSON server will runs or install in our local machine. Next, to run the JSON server, here is the command to run it. Okay. So in my demo, what I will do, I am going to configure the JSON server within my Angular application itself. Okay, copy this command and go to package.json file and let me create a command like JSON server. And to that command, let's add our JSON server command here. So if I run this command, JSON server get hosted locally in our machine. Okay, so let's run it. So copy this command, open one more terminal And to run this command, I have to use npm run space the command name. And if you observe here, JSON server logging some endpoints here. Okay. If you try to access the one of the endpoint, see, we are getting the API response. So these are auto-generated API endpoints. But how it is generating means whenever we run this JSON server command first time, it's going to create a db.json file. Okay. So if I try to navigate to db.json file, so this is the file just got created for us. And here there are three different kinds of object, right? Just JavaScript objects. So each object is generated as one endpoint. So from this we can conclude this JSON file acts as a database for fetching the data as a API response. So what I will do, I just remove the existing data and I am going to add my own custom response data. Okay, here I replaced with my custom response data. So here I am creating a object like cars and it collection contains ID, name, year, image, URL and color as the response. If we save, okay, and if we check the logs here, you can see a new endpoint is created based on our object. So whatever object we add here, that going to be created as an endpoint. Okay, let's try to access this new endpoint. So here I am getting the response, right? My data. So I can consume this API in my Angular application and render it using Angular material codes. Okay. Now let's create this API response model into our application. In the app folder, let me create a new TS file like car.ts. So it will be my interface that represents API response. And here, let's copy these props and add here. Okay. So let's define the props. ID will be number. Okay. Name will be string. Here will be number and image URL will be string and color also string. Now let's create a service file where we can write logic to consume the API call. Okay, so inside of the app folder, let's create a file like dot service dot ts. Okay, export class app service, and in Angular, services must be decorated with at the rate to be registered with injectable. Okay, that loads from Angular core, and here I will this way provide in it root. Okay, so that we no need to register the app service into the app module, because by decorating like this it can be injected wherever we want without registering in app module as well. Okay, now into the constructor we have to inject the HTTP client instance. So let's import the HTTP client instance from @angular/common/http. Okay, and HTTP client that must be injected to constructor. Since we using HTTP client, we need to import the HTTP module in the app module. So first let's do that. So here I will import like HTTP client module, I think. Yes. And here is the import line. Now let's get back to our app service and let's create a method like get. So this get will invoke the our API call. Okay, and this get method returns observable. Okay, that loads from the RxJS of our car array type. Okay, that is my response. Now using HTTP client, you can use a get method to invoke the HTTP get request. Okay, and here we can define the type of the response like array of cars. And to this method, we need to input our API call. So copy this URL, pass it here. Okay. Now I want to bind the content to the Angular material cards. So let's go to Angular web material website. Okay, and look for Angular card components. Okay, here is the component. And go to the example section and let me copy this HTML content. Okay, so let me copy this and add it into our app component.html file. Okay, let's add a div, and inside of that div, let's add it. All right, so this is my sample content, and we need to copy some CSS also. I just need this max width of the card. Okay, and go to app component.css file, add the style. Now let's check the output. Okay, since we are using mat card, right, we need to import its module. For that, go to material website and go to API in the card section, and let's import this module. And let's get back to our app module. Okay, and add the mat module into the import section as well. Now let's check the output. Okay, I am getting the nice display of card. Let me give some margin. Okay, so to do that, in the app module.css, okay, let me create a style class like app wrapper. Okay, so specify margin some 20 pixels. Okay, so copy this class and go to app component HTML file, and here there is a root div, right? So add a class and add it here. Okay, we got some margin. Okay, now I want to use this card for binding my API response, this API response. Okay, so for that, in the app component .ts file, okay, let's inject our service So our service is app service. Okay. And let me implement lifecycle method like ng on in it. Okay. So implement the method. Okay. And here let me create a method like get. So in this get, I am going to invoke my service get method, which is our API call method. And here we are going to subscribe for the response. Okay. So response is array of cars here. Okay. To store the API response, let me create a variable like cars of type car array, initial value empty. And let's use this variable in the subscribe method. This dot cars equal to response. Okay, now I am able to store the API response, but this method I want to invoke when the component renders. That means I can use get method here instead of the ng on in it. Okay, now I can use this car variable to loop over my HTML. So for that, on the mat code root element, let's use ng for, okay, let item of what is our variable cars. So specify it. So this is the variable from our component.ts file, and here we are creating the HTML element variable that is item. Okay. Now here what I will do, here in the mad code title component, let me bind the name of the item. Okay, for that I can use flower brackets, right? So item dot name. I no need any subtitle. Let me remove this. Okay, and here in the src, I want to bind the URL. So image URL I can use here. So item dot image URL. Okay, and in the paragraph, let me add a year, our model year, and I can bind the year as a result. Item dot year. And let me add one more paragraph tag, p tag, and I want to display the color of the car. So item dot color, and I don't want any action buttons here. So let me remove them. Okay. So our final HTML like this, we are looping our API response. So let's test whether we are going to see multiple cards or not. Okay, here you can see my card is rendering, right? But they are coming like a rows one by one. So let me make them side by side. Okay. So to do that, first let me reduce the size of the material card. So for that, here width is 200 pixels, right? Let me make it some 250 pixels. Okay, now card width is reduced. Okay, and now let's specify display flex and check the output. Now they are coming side by side, right? But we are getting overflow scroll. So to fix that, flex wrap. Okay, specify wrap. Okay, now they are coming one after another. But let me add some styling between the cards. So let me add a margin for cards. Okay, so let's specify like 10 pixels margin. Okay, and let's try to move the content to the center. So for that I can add justify content center. Okay, now it is much better. Now I want to add item ID, okay, at the top of the or left right hand side of the name. So let me bind the item ID because that will be helpful to observe the sorting. Okay. So here next to the mat table, mat card title, let me add a some round button. For that, go to button component. Okay, and go for examples. And let me take like this button, rounded button. Okay, go to HTML. Okay, mini fab. Let me copy this. Okay, and let's add it here. And I don't want icon. I just want to render the ID of the item. So item dot ID. Okay, so let's check it. Okay, but round effect is not coming. That is because we need to import the button module, I think. So let's copy the button module. So let's go to our app module. So add the module here and add it under imports array. So let's check the output. Right now it is getting our ID values also. Now let me give the primary color to them instead of this yellow color. So for that, go to app component.html and I think here we can add attribute like color and specify like primary. Let's check. Okay. Now we are successfully done by consuming our API call into our application and also by rendering it onto the our cards. Okay. Next, we are going to implement the different kind of sorting like sorting by ID value, sorting by year, sorting by color. So all the sorting, both ascending and descending sorting, we will implement. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support by subscribing to channel and don't forget to like and share the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.